take your seats. Mrs. Woolf's lecture is about to begin. Can you believe Virginia Woolf is actually here in our college? What a treat! It's odd though, because we invited her to speak about women and fiction, and the title of the lecture is A Room of One's Own. What's all that about? Woolf is quite aware of the confusion this title may have caused, but she assures us that she chose it after a great deal of thought about women and fiction. Because if you are a woman and aspire to write, you'll need a steady income and a lockable room of your own. In the days leading up to this lecture, Woolf experienced some revelations that helped her arrive at this conclusion. So she's going to tell us all about them using her skills as a novelist. In other words, she's going to package the truth in delicious prose fiction, complete with a storyline, imaginary characters, and fictional settings. Remember, a setting is where the action takes place in a story. Hey team, just a reminder, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It really helps the channel out, and our next upload could be on something taught in your next class. Thanks, and back to the video. In fact, it's better if we mostly refer to Woolf as the narrator, or the person who tells the story. This is because Woolf is going to use various author surrogates with different names, as well as refer to herself as I. An author surrogate is a fictional character based on the author. The names of Woolf's surrogates aren't important. They could be Mary Beaton, Mary Seton, or Mary Carmichael. As you'll see, the Marys will represent Woolf and other women. So, without further ado, let's enjoy the narrator's journey to her conclusion about the room and the money. While visiting Oxbridge University, the narrator sits by the river and ponders the topic of women and fiction very deeply. Of course, Oxbridge doesn't really exist. It's a fictional setting. Its name is borrowed from the famous portmanteau of Oxford and Cambridge, both of which are real universities in England. A portmanteau is created when two or more words are joined together to create a new word. The purpose of Oxbridge is to position the narrator as a female visitor in a very old and prestigious university. The lovely autumn scene inspires deep thought about women and fiction, and an interesting idea begins to form in the narrator's mind. It behaves like a shy, juvenile fish, not yet ready to be hauled from the depths. While chasing this idea, the narrator leaves her spot by the river and begins to walk across the manicured lawn. But how dare she? A beadle, or security officer, angrily waves her back onto the gravel path. Only male scholars and fellows of Oxbridge are allowed to walk on the grass. The narrator obeys, but the beadle's interruption has caused her to lose her train of thought. Don't you hate it when that happens? Not to worry, though. A leisurely stroll through the exquisite university grounds restores peace to her mind. She decides to visit the famous library to look up some wonderful old manuscripts. What a fabulous way to spend a fine October morning. But as she opens the library door, another Oxbridge official denies her entry. Women cannot enter unless they're accompanied by a fellow of the college or have a letter of introduction. Now that makes her angry. This time, the narrator regains her composure by admiring the university's stunning chapel. It really is an incredible sight. She thinks of all the money spent and the centuries it took to build it. This goes for all of Oxbridge's beautiful buildings and grounds, all so that generations of men could advance themselves and the English Empire. Now, that's food for thought. Speaking of which, it's time for lunch. At an exclusive college luncheon, the narrator enjoys multiple courses served by waitstaff. The superb food and free-flowing wine are the perfect fuel for engaging conversation. The whole dining experience lights up the narrator's soul and sparks her intellect. While enjoying her post-meal cigarette, the narrator sees a tailless cat on the lawn. It brings down her mood because the missing tail reminds her of the Great War. There really has been something missing since the war. People used to have music in their voices. After lunch, the narrator walks to the women's college down the road. On her way, she ponders the phenomenon of the lost music. Where had it gone? Things were different before the war. There was an enchanting illusion of beauty in this world. This was what inspired the great poets like Alfred Lord Tennyson and Christina Rossetti. The war had killed the illusion, the music, and romance. The one consolation is that truth has risen in their place. Dinner in the dining hall of Fernham, the women's college at Oxbridge, is a rather plain affair. Quite a letdown, really, compared to the rich lunch party up at the main campus. But the narrator is too polite to say this to her friend, Mary Seaton, who's a science teacher at Fernham. Eventually, though, the narrator's outrage at the inequality overwhelms her. Women had to beg, borrow, and scrape for every penny to establish Fernham in the 1860s. Why are women so poor? The answer is simple. English women have only been legally able to own property and control their finances since 1882. Before then, any money they did possess or earn went straight to their husbands. Then there's the ingrained social expectation for women to be childbearers, not free intellectuals. With a cultural legacy like that, it's no wonder that women's colleges are so impoverished. As the narrator walks back to her hotel, she stews over the way women have been, and still are, excluded. Men have all the benefits of wealth, security, and tradition to help them prosper. It's not so for women, even in 1928. How might this affect the minds of female writers? A short time later, the narrator heads to the British Museum to find out, once and for all, why women are poor. She's hunting for the truth, and if the British Museum doesn't have it, where could she turn? At first, the narrator is shocked by the vast number of books written by men about women. Women must be the most discussed animal in the universe. So she puts in an order and is presented with an avalanche of books, all written by male experts. Surely the answer is in here somewhere. Sadly, after hours of reading, the narrator is left distressed, disappointed, and humiliated. Even the dishevelled young student next to her has made better progress with his research. What the narrator has discovered is a mass of contradictory opinions, many of which are just offensive. Some of these male authors, like Goethe and Dr. Samuel Johnson, believe women to be highly capable, intelligent, and even divine, while others, like Napoleon and Mussolini, see women as weak, soulless, and inferior to men in every possible way. Yikes. Instead of coming to a well-informed conclusion about the poverty of women, the narrator just draws a sketch of an angry, mean-looking professor. The undercurrent of anger in most of these books has made her angry too. It's been a massive waste of time. As the narrator exits the museum, she wonders why these male experts on women seem so angry. She sits down to lunch and thinks. Flipping through the newspaper, it's clear that the patriarchy is thriving in England. If men's power is so consolidated and secure, What reason would they have to be angry towards women? Why were these experts so adamant about women's inferiority? She concludes that it's not so much about women being inferior, but about men protecting and affirming their superiority. Women reflect men's superiority back to them like a distorted mirror, and many men would like to keep it that way. If we took that mirror away and the patriarchs stopped seeing themselves at twice their natural size, then what? But Woolf prefers that other women, perhaps some in the audience today, pursue that controversial question. For now, her narrator must pay her lunch bill. What a wonderful thing it is to have your own money. Ever since her aunt, Mary Beaton, died and left the narrator a fixed yearly income of £500, it's as if her wallet breeds money. It may only be a modest income, but it's all she needs to support herself. It means she never has to worry about food, clothing, shelter, or a man's favour ever again. Oh, the joy of independence. Having money has freed her from bitterness and opened her mind to creativity. As she walks home in the London twilight, the narrator thinks about what it will be like for women in the 2020s. Instead of being so protected, the narrator believes women will be allowed to work in all kinds of jobs, even dangerous and difficult ones. All the opportunities that are denied women in the 1920s will be open to them, and women's contributions will be valued. Imagine that! In a world where anything is possible for women, imagine what amazing writers they'd be. What do you think? Was Virginia Woolf right about women in the 2020s? We hope you enjoyed this Schooling Online production. For more easy lessons, check out our other videos.